What's happening, people? Welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast with myself, Luke, and hopefully in the next 5 minutes, Callum will be joining us as well, as today we discuss all of the rumoured transfer targets for Spurs, as well as outgoings for Spurs as well. As up until right now, there hasn't been a hell of a lot of transfer activity for Spurs, so we're hoping over the next few weeks before the start of the season, there will be, as it seems to be that everybody else around us is strengthening while Spurs are not. What I do want to know from everybody before Callum joins, obviously get in the chat some of your questions regarding transfers. If you have any questions or any talking points you wish to discuss regarding transfers at Spurs this summer, do let us know, and we'll try and get through as many of those as we can as well. But if you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe as well, and get all your comments in. We'll read out as many as we physically possibly can. But yeah, as I said at the kind of start intro of the show, it's not looking good currently for Spurs. In terms of incomings or outgoings, really. There's not a lot happening. And we'll go through as many, I don't really like rumours, but, there isn't much to go through apart from rumours at the moment. So, yeah, we'll try and go through a few of those, and talk kind of pros and cons regarding each one. So, yeah, also do let us know where you're watching from, who you are, and all that good stuff as well. So let's go through some of the things that Spurs have done, if we can talk about that. Let's start by talking about Matthias Tell. He comes in at a £30 million signing for Spurs. I mean, when we signed him on loan, it was looking like, it would be in the region of 50, 60 million for him. So, a cut price deal of 30 million looks like the club has decided it's good news and a good signing for us to make. Only time will tell on that one. Again, I think it's the likelihood of Daniel Levy and the board looking at that as a kind of money signing. In if he doesn't work out, then at least we can, or if he does work out, we can sell him on for more money. I think that's kind of what they've gone for. Is it something that's going to change our season? Probably not. No. A lot of you know my thoughts on Matthias Tell, but I'll give everybody a shot. So hopefully, he comes up with the goods at some point. I can see that Winnie is in the chat. So even to you, Winnie, at some point you might show your face back on the channel. That'll be good for everybody. We did play a game of FIFA the other night. It's good to see that you're doing well. And Jay, as always, good evening to you, my friend. Do let me know your thoughts on Matthias Tell, everyone, as well, because there are some of you out there, or quite a lot of you out there, who think he's going to be a very good signing for Spurs. So, I could be wrong. I'm never massively wrong, to be quite honest, but I could be wrong about Matthias Tell. 30 million, it's not a huge sum of money, but we will go through some of the other incomings, if you can call them that, and it will definitely deplete some of our transfer budget. One of the biggest problems this summer is going to be, we've got a lot of money we've already obligated to spend, and so once we spend all of that, how much money is actually left for transfers? And I mean, if we go into next season with Thomas Frank with the kind of squad that we currently have, it could be a very, very difficult summer for him. But here he is. He's finally here. Callum, how are you, mate? Okay, he's here, but as usual, for some reason, his microphone doesn't work. So we will catch up with him sooner. When he's teasing us saying he might be back on the show sooner than we think. Well, to be honest, mate, I thought you'd be on about 3 months ago. So probably not that much sooner. But no, hopefully you'll be on soon. It'd be good to have you back. And Henry in the comments says, Coys, Eden to you. Anybody else watching, give us a shout. Let us know kind of where you are, who you are, and what's up. So I was going to talk to Callum about Matthias Tell, but until he's ready to...
I can talk to you. I can talk to you now, mate.
Here we go. He's here. What are your thoughts? We're going through some of the kind of obligations that Spurs have to, Spurs have to pay out for, which is at least, I would say, £60 million roughly on various things. And what are your thoughts on Matthias Tell at 30 million roughly for Spurs?
Well, I mean, we definitely negotiated the fee down. I mean, I've heard that it's an initial 29.3 million up front with about 5 million add-ons in there. So put that together, you're sitting at about 35 million, then another 8.3 for a loan fee between January and now. So probably all in, the deal's going to be roughly about 44 million. So it's lower than the initial 60 million that we expected. So it's better. I think there's a player there, whether it's sort of what I'm thinking is a top signing, I don't know yet. There's definitely raw potential, but I don't think he's the finished article, let's put it that way.
But doesn't this just stink of another Daniel Levy money-making scheme? He sees a little bit of a cut price deal, 19-year-old, been tipped with good potential. Oh, well, I could make a bit of money from this in the future.
Potentially. I would say potentially. I mean, to be fair, I think Bayern thought that in the first place when they bought in from Rennes for like 26.5 million about 3 years ago. He hadn't even kicked a ball then, and they coughed up 30 million, didn't they? So it's definitely got Levy thinking there is resale value to it. I'll give it that.
Fair enough. Right, let's move on to another player we've had to ship out for, which we did talk about last week. Kevin Danso, roughly £21 million. Looks like a decent squad defender. We are getting a bit stacked in centre back. There could be rumours of potential outgoings, which we'll get to towards the end of the show. I think he's a solid signing. I think that there are some of our defenders, such as Dragashin, who could depart, and we wouldn't be worse off. How are you feeling about this signing for Kevin Danso?
I think Danso's quite a no-brainer. He was a good option. He did well when called upon, apart from injuries-wise. Obviously, he's Wes's mate, isn't he, from Milton Keynes as well? Yeah. So it does have its advantages there. And I mean, I'm just having a look, and I believe that he does class towards homegrown quota in the Premier League because of his sort of youth status in the country from coming from Milton Keynes. So I think for 21 million, not the worst deal, to be honest. I think there's worse options out there, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. And for once, it feels like, we're not short in defence. Sometimes at times it would be like, okay, we've got our centre-backs, and then it feels like if we were to lose those, who both were up significantly last season, who would we call upon? And now it feels like, with the likes of Danso, and obviously you can call him Dragashin, we have some younger players as well who we'll get talking about. But it looks like defence seems to be somewhere that we're not too, scarce on.
Yeah, no, I think probably better to have him as an option in there and a little bit more of a senior pro. I mean, he's been playing for Austria for years. Admittedly, he didn't have a good time at Southampton when he was over here originally, but he was probably the better one out of the Lens centre-backs. I mean, obviously, City got Krasnodar or whatever his name is, the young, I think he was Serbian or something like that, and they paid a huge fee, and we got the more experienced one. So, no, I'm happy with Danso, to be honest. I think he's more of a Spurs-type signing than Dragashin, let's put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. And, finally joining us, I believe, after 2 seasons out on loan, Luka Viskovic. What are your thoughts on this young lad? Because, okay, look, he's played in Poland, he's played in Belgium. Is that right?
Westerlo last year as well.
And he has been playing well, scoring goals. I know we're talking, much lower league. In Poland, especially, I've got a friend of mine, good friend who lives in Poland, and the team he was playing for weren't necessarily, one of the top teams in the Polish league. But again, has been playing well at these clubs, and finally we may start to see, the player that we signed at such a young age may not focus, maybe somebody that we see end up going out on loan again. I think, especially with Thomas Frank, we're going to see a lot of players get their chances, in pre-season, and then he'll kind of make decisions from there. But what are your thoughts on him? He's probably one of the more exciting youngsters, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's a big fucker. Let's put it that way. I mean, he's about 6'7", like 18 or 19. I think he must have had about 14 goal contributions last year for Westerlo. I mean, he got better stats than Alfie Devine did, and he was playing as a centre attacking mid for him as well. So, no, I think there's a good player there. And I mean, 2 years ago, we beat City, we beat Real Madrid, and we beat a number of other top clubs who were looking at him for quite a... We paid a decent fee, probably 12, 13 million for potential in add-ons. So, yeah, I think there's a centre-back there. Sometimes mobility's a little bit of his issue sort of thing. He is a bit of a tree trunk of a player. But, no, I think there's a good potential player there. And he seems to be more higher rated than probably Ash Phillips and Dorrington at the moment by the Spurs staff, but maybe because of the money invested in him, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. I think, from my perspective on it, he kind of goes into being, the top youngster that we have coming through in that position. I think he automatically steps ahead of both Ash Phillips and Dorrington. But then, that's just from what I've seen in terms of he's the one who's been pulling up trees on loan spells. Regardless of who he's been at, he's the one that's been out on loan. And he said, I've got 2 years before I can officially sign for Spurs to go and prove myself. I'm going to go and do whatever I can. And he seems to have done that consistently. And so you would put him as kind of being one of those players. If there was going to be somebody to break through, it would be likely to be him. I've heard rumours of Championship clubs looking at Ashley Phillips anyway recently. So we'll see what happens with that. But Spurs, we keep talking about centre-backs. And then we're also now going to talk about, I'm going to absolutely butcher this here, but Katota Chakai, we're going to say him as. Deal agreed, apparently, £5 million. Big fee for a J-League player. But, another big fucker I found. 6'4", I believe, something like that.
Yeah, so Kota Takai, another big centre-back from the J-League. I mean, if the deal's to be believed, because it's gone quiet the last couple of days, but if it's to be believed, it's a £5 million deal for the J-League, which is their club, well, their league record signing. Fucking hell!
What was you saying, Luke? What was you saying?
Nice to see you, mate. Nice to see your face.
He don't look like a Kota Takai.
I'm better than him, that's why.
Rightio. Fucking hell, mate. It's been a while. You all right?
I'm not too bad. Apologies if I look all hot and sweaty. I've just got back from a 15k walk. I don't know why I decided to do that today, of all things, but I know.
Mate, you're mental.
I've literally got a towel next to me because I'm going to keep dripping. So if you see my shiny forehead, I apologise. I'm
literally dripping just sitting here. Mate.
So we'll see whether it's something that's going to come off or not. I suppose, Callum, this deal.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main things. I mean, it's very quiet from Japanese sources at the moment. They're saying it's strong rumours in there, but if he does come, it'll be another combative centre back who will most likely stay in the first team this year, but he has a lot of growing to do, and it sort of reminds me of the Saar Udogi deal as well. Growing as a player, not in height and stature.
We'll have a look.
But yeah, no, it's all right. It's one of them things. But yeah, he's definitely one of the deals that could prove to be a good investment in the long term.
Yeah, hopefully. Winnie, do you have any thoughts on this young Japanese lad who may end up at Spurs?
I know nothing about him. Literally nothing about him. He's highly regarded from the J League, and I mean it's a transfer. It's one of those. It's low risk, potentially high reward. That's probably what this deal is. He could turn out to be a fantastic centre back, but isn't he? I think he's quite tall, isn't he? Do we know his actual height?
I think 6'4".
Yeah, so 6'4" in the J League. I'm not being funny. He should be an absolute baller because he probably towers over 95% of the players. So yeah, it's one of them. It's 5 million. What's that to us? It's nothing, is it? So we'll see.
Yeah,
I guess it's probably the best way
I
to
wasn't
say.
going to be the one to suddenly suggest that all Japanese people are small, which I feel like you suggested, but
I mean, I didn't say it. You did, technically.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, we've just slaughtered half of the Middle East and the Far East as well in terms of that. So well done, boys. We've probably just caused an international incident somewhere or other.
Yeah, the chat's got into meltdown because Winnie's turned up. Where's his mum said, Winnie the new boy. Jay just said it's been a while.
It has. I'm under no illusion it has been a long time, but I'm here for now, and that is all that matters, isn't it?
Exactly, the here and now. Exactly. You are here. Right, let's move on to a bit more kind of paper talk. Now, look, Winnie, we just spoke briefly about 4 people who are coming in. We've got Tell, Danso, and then Vuskovic and Takai. None of which, okay, you could talk about Danso. He's probably the oldest one out of them all. All other 3 of them are young people who are pinning hopes on at some point doing well. This is an issue, right, at Spurs at the moment, we cannot just keep going out and buy players who potentially in the next few years, A, may work, or B, may make us some money, when we resell them to somebody else for, a couple of million more. How do we go about it now? Like, what should we be doing, in your opinion? Should we be going and acting like a Liverpool, like a big club, and going and trying to sign star players for this team?
That's the dream, isn't it? Let's be honest, but that's just not the way that Tottenham operate. Also, I think if we're going to go out and sign huge players like a Florian Wirtz, people like that, there's far too many other clubs that are more attractive than we are. I mean, I don't know what else we can do. We've got a fantastic stadium, absolutely, fantastic training facilities. We've got Champions League football now. We literally have everything we could have to be a superior club, yet we still don't seem to have that pull that other teams have. Now, whether that be wages offered in initial talks, because let's be honest, we're not naive to think that clubs don't dip their toe in the water and go, before a deal's even announced. Like, we may have dipped into the water for Florian Wirtz and they've gone, yeah, we'll give you £100,000 a week, and then Liverpool have gone, well, we'll give you £300,000 a week, and they've gone, okay, thank you, Tottenham. Have the best, all the best for the season, kind of thing. So we're just not that. But the one deal that I'm sure we will maybe get onto, and I won't obviously allude onto it too much, is the Eze deal. That just seems to be there and ready and waiting just for us to activate some kind of initiation talks with him. But I mean, I guess we're going to touch on that because there's a few conspiracy theories flying about on football Twitter. But yeah, the ideal is we'll go and make deals like that, but it's still yet to be seen, and hopefully we kind of change in that way and we start to act a bit more like a bigger club.
Do you know what? I'm turning into somebody else now, but I have absolutely zero thoughts, zero kind of anything real hope that we will get this deal done. I would say there's a 0.1% chance, in my brain that this is what happens. Like, it's just, I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and we're not getting onto Levy out the debate right now, but I've tried and I've tried and I've tried to back, the ownership, the board and everything else. The moment for me, was sacking Ange Postecoglou for me. But now to see them come out, him and Vinay, on YouTube and say, we want to win this, we want to win that, we're going to do things differently, we have the same vision. And then to watch over the last week since that's come out and them do absolutely nothing, out there in paper talk world to sign anybody, any kind of rumour we talk about Eberechi Eze, It's now, the last I heard was that Spurs are now pulling away from the deal, and it's more likely he would go to Arsenal than Spurs. And, I hate to say it, but they are the ones who act like that. They're the ones who, when they need to sign somebody or when they want to sign somebody, look at Cristian Norgard. I'm not too clued up on him as a player. He wouldn't be somebody that if we signed him, I would be, jumping from the rafters about, or swinging from the rafters, I think is the phrase. But at the same time, they clearly wanted him, and then they go out and get a deal done. Do you get what I mean? So that's my only concern over Eze, really. He is a player that Spurs should get, but do I see it happening? Probably not.
I think it's more possible than I think you're possibly making out, in my opinion. I genuinely think there seems to be some kind of attraction and kind of connection. I think he's got family members who are Spurs fans, but I mean that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to want to join Tottenham himself. But I think he just seems like if ever there's a player out there that just screams Tottenham, it is him. And I don't know how to kind of express that or articulate that in any other way, but he literally just screams Tottenham, in my opinion. He's someone who would get bums off seats, and that's something that I think Levy would want. I think I don't really know. We can sit here and talk about it for a long time and debate what we think Tottenham should do or what they will do, but I think the Eze deal is more probable than not. But again, that's me just speculating. I think there's also rumours that they want to wait until the next financial thing with whether it's that the financial, I don't know, whether the thing where you have to, that thing. And that starts on the 1st of July. So whether you believe that kind of thing and Tottenham want to push the deal into there. You what? Sorry.
Tuesday is the 1st of July, so we'll pin all our hopes that.
Again, it depends whether you believe that. That screams of Tottenham Hotspur, if I'm honest, shifting things to the next financial deadline, etc., etc. So, and again, obviously, the deal seems even more possible now. The fact that we can do it in instalments, that screams, like 20 million instalments and stuff like that. So that does sound like something that Tottenham would do. But again, we'll have to see, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I like your optimism. I like it's still there after all this time. Callum, what are your thoughts on this? Because I've seen, some facial expressions, I should say, when certain phrases have been used. How do you feel about Eze for Spurs?
I'm the same as Winnie. That I think he's ready-made for Spurs. I think he's been there, seen it, done it so many times that we've probably missed out on him enough times to literally. He is the bride that got away. Let's put it that way. And I think, unfortunately, this summer it's going to be the same scenario because as soon as the price tag dropped for him, 6 other teams started spiralling. Let's put it that way. And City, Arsenal, Newcastle, Villa, Man United, and one other club, including us, are all looking at him. And in all honesty, I think that we probably could agree a deal with him, and we could agree a deal with Palace. We can afford it. It's a Spurs-made deal. If we get 30 million up front, 20 million, and then 20 million in add-ons, that's Daniel Levy transfer strategy 101, not paying more money, but it's the contract, which I think that whereas we'll probably offer just say £150 million or 150 grand a week, I think that Arsenal, United, City would offer 200 grand a week. Which is what would sway him to go to other clubs. It wouldn't be us failing to agree a deal. We might put a proposal down on paper like we did with Gahey in this, January. It's just that bigger clubs will come in, or even Man United. They might not have Champions League this summer, but they are a bigger club, bigger prestige. I mean, I know we're probably covering Burmo later on as well, but literally the pool is still there of them and the money that they're going to pay. I think the Spurs do pay well on wages, but they are very heavily incentivized wages. That we won't pay a big baseline, we'll pay big bonuses to players, and players just see the sort of bog standard wages in front of them, what they get on their paycheck. So I think in my heart of hearts, I don't think the Eze deal is going to happen because there was 4 players on the list that Spurs are looking at, and it was Eze and Burmo, Semenyo and Xavi Simons for these 4 positions they're looking at. And Burmo's gone, Eze's probably gone, Semenyo's overpriced. So I think the one that screams to me that could happen because of what we spoke earlier, the Daniel Levy potential angle of how much money he could get in the future, is probably Xavi Simons is the likely option that could happen at the moment, from what I've heard.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, and this comment I want to discuss quickly. Vernon Go, thank you for tuning in. By the way, there's quite a lot of you watching, so please do click the like button on the video. Take 2 seconds to do it, and it's free. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, please click that subscribe button. Really would help push us out to more people. He said Spurs, or they have said, I should say, Spurs transfer window will only start after Frank assesses the squad. Unlike the other clubs, they all have the same manager for this new season, so it's easier for them to go after their targets. Quickly, Winnie, on that one, what do you think about that? Because it's dangerous to go into pre-season. Like, in my eyes, I would want all the players in for pre-season so they can just go and get in straight away. But classic Spurs, sometimes we don't even sign them till after pre-season, and then it's like, oh, how are they ever going to mould into how this team wants to play? But what are your thoughts on letting Thomas Frank assess the squad? Look, he's been a Premier League manager for a number of years now. I think he has a very good idea of who these players are. I don't buy it personally, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I assume the kind of impression I get when it's assessed the squad, it's perhaps assessing the fringe players and the youth players and players that don't necessarily play, because he knows our starting 11. He probably knows what starting 11 he would pick as well. That's the thing. Before he's even come into the club, he's probably looked at our squad and gone, okay, this is who's playing here, he's playing there. I assume it's people like Ashley Phillips, etc. People like that, people that he would want to get a look at before going, actually, do you know what? We're short in centre back, we're short in right mid, we're short in centre mid, kind of thing. So I don't necessarily think like I say, it's to assess the squad as a whole. It's probably just to assess the fringe players, and I think that's possibly sensible, because we do have some fringe players. People like Donley, for example, he's gone away, had a fantastic loan spell, and he's someone who we've looked at before as fans and gone, do you know what? He could be like one of the next best things to come out of Tottenham Hotspur. And normally they'll go out on loan and they'll have appearances, whereas Donley's gone away, like I said, and is absolutely fantastic. What's
all I heard was Dalek, and exterminate.
Don't worry, we got most of it.
Wow. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, better.
Oh, well. But yeah, just pushing on that, I think it's probably more looking at fringe players than it is the actual squad.
No, that's fair enough. That's a good way to look at it, definitely. Let's move on to somebody that Callum, you called overpriced, Antoine Semenyo. Bournemouth seem to have kind of triggered that whole Brighton signing, talent pool where they seem to get people in for decent fees and then flog them out for loads of money, which is good for them. I think what we're talking 70 million plus, and we're not even talking about instalments with Semenyo. I don't disagree with you. Overpriced is an understatement for him, but there's definitely a winger is a position they're definitely prioritising, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely a versatile forward is what they're looking at, and Spurs obviously got sort of roped into the Bournemouth transfer saga last year with Solanke. It was either you pay the release clause or you don't get him. So, yeah, definitely. I think that they've seen that they could sell Solanke for a huge fee. Now they want another huge fee for Semenyo, and I don't think they're going to want their whole squad pulled apart. They've already lost Kirkes, they've already lost Holson. There's the Barney who could go next. There's talks of Patrick Kluivert being looked at by Leverkusen. The same with Alex. Justin, sorry. I'm fucking going back in time. I've gone back in time, mate. But no, Justin Kluivert as well being looked at for 30 to 40 million. So there's definitely... I don't think they're going to want to have their whole squad ripped apart this summer. And they're going to have to say... either you pay the fee that we want or we don't let you leave. Simple as that. And I think that's where we're at in terms of this one, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I don't disagree. I think it's a non-starter for Semenyo. I mean, unless there was, a reduction in price or something like that, then I don't see it non-starter. Same as the next one, Brian and Burmo. Thank you, Mr. McGrath, for the like. I think it's the same one with Brian and Burmo. It's one of those ones. What will happen is you'll get a player wanting to follow their ex-manager to a club, but actually it seems not like that's it looks like that he's just on his way to try and get the best deal possible for himself. And we were talking about it with the likes of Eze. I think that players now are influenced so much by their agents, and they're so money hungry, which they're entitled to be, because who isn't in this world, that there's not much loyalty going around. It's more about, well, what can I get best for my client, from an agent side, and the player, like, what can I get that's going to help me out the most, which is why we're seeing a lot of players sell their soul for Saudi dollar. And so I think it's the same with Brian and Burmo. This whole Champions League pull kind of is non-existent really anymore. It's now about who can offer the most amount of money. And, you've got to give it to the Manchester United owner, because a few weeks ago he was sacking everyone out of Manchester United, all the cleaners and everybody else, and still paying Casemiro £300+ a week. And now he's looking at getting Brian and Burmo on $250K a week. So he must be finding some money from somewhere. But Winnie, do you think it's a starter or a non-starter for Burmo? Right, we might have to drop you out, I'm afraid, Winnie. I'll message him and let him know. He's might need to restart his router. Anyway, Callum, do you see anything happening in this Burmo deal?
There was active talks about 2 weeks ago, and
yeah,
what is going on? Am I still here? Yeah, sorry. I think my internet was going then. So there was active talks about 2 weeks ago with Burmo. Spurs did look at the option there when they were discussing with Frank. He listed a number of players, but no, based on what I've heard now, the Burmo deal's done. There was no sort of bid that went in. There was only there was talk through the clubs and intermediaries. Frank going to Spurs may have had a small pull, but to be honest, Man United's package was just too great for Burmo to turn down. So they turned down Brentford turned down 2 deals for Burmo. They are looking to get a third, which is close to 65 million plus add-ons. I think it's a done deal with Man United, and Ornstein has said something similar as well, to be honest. So I did do a pod on Friday night. It was clickbait that people were thinking Burmo rejected Spurs. Yes, he has rejected Spurs in respect of saying, no, I've already got a deal agreed with Man United, and I will either go to Man United or I'll stay at Brentford for another year and then leave on a free, and then have my choice of clubs after that.
Yeah, fair enough. And everybody's entitled, or players are entitled to make their own decisions, aren't they? But let's talk about one player who has a summer really to decide on what he wants to do, because he really hasn't kind of pulled up any trees at Manchester City, and that's Jack Grealish. There's always going to be rumours about Spurs and Jack Grealish ever since he was at Aston Villa. And Aston Villa needed a bit of cash, and Spurs tried to offer Onuma plus, I think, a couple of £1 million to try and sign him. Man City a few years later signed him for 100 million. So, look, do you feel like he is a fit for Spurs? That left-hand side where he often plays is a position where Spurs are definitely looking at, proceeding with getting a signing for. Do you see him being a fit or not?
I think the time for Jack Grealish was about 3 years ago, to be honest, maybe 4 years ago. And I think that time has gone, in all honesty. So I wouldn't take the risk. The injuries have hampered his career too much. The wages that he's on are rumoured to be nearer to 300 grand a week. So can you see him taking that huge pay cut? City are going to want about 40 to 50 million for him as well. I don't see him fitting the profile that Spurs are going to look at this summer. They're going to want players who are 23 to 27 maximum, maybe 22 to 26. If anything, they will probably stick to that profile if we're going to experience players. And I don't actually think he's done that great at City either, to be honest. I think he's had enough opportunities. It's just not the sort of... He's not the sort of player that I go for unless you want to fill a homegrown quota for at least Premier League side.
It's difficult because he doesn't, for a winger, he doesn't really add a lot of pace, to that. The probably major benefit to him would be the clubs would look at, because everybody loves the stat, is, winning fouls in attacking positions, and if you're a set piece team, then, he might be a decent player to have. For example, do you know who might work out for? Someone like Arsenal, right? Who they focus a lot on their set pieces. Attacking free kicks could be something they absolutely cream themselves over. And so actually, Jack Grealish, who could win you fouls in that position, whilst Arsenal fans would say he doesn't add anything to their team, just like Spurs fans would, in my eyes, that's something that a team like that could, want. And I don't see Spurs like that currently.
Yeah, I mean, we've got James Maddison who can win a foul, haven't we? He can win enough fouls around the box, or he can at least get knocked off the ball and act like a petulant child a little bit at the time as well. And Jack Grealish kind of reminds me of Maddison, but Maddison had better stats last year, and the same the year before that as well. So we've already got that sort of type of player. And if anything, I wouldn't be surprised to see Maddison playing in that forward front position more, to be honest, this season as well.
Yeah, 100%. Right, let's move on to some potential outgoings then, because KEB has written a comment saying, why the clickbait title picture? Well, I'll tell you why. Because, there are rumours of a potential outgoing for Cristian Romero. It looks like Atletico Madrid are very keen on Cristian Romero this summer. 60 million is the current figure being floated around for him. Spurs want upwards of 70, which I don't think is unreasonable either for him. Where do you sit on this one? We spoke about centre-backs already. We've got two youngsters coming, potential, with one Viskovic already coming to Spurs, and then a potential coming in, with another couple of youngsters coming through as well, with the likes of also Danso and Dragusin already at the club. Where do you see Cristian Romero if he was to leave Spurs?
I don't think that he will go to Atletico, because the amount of money they've already spent on different players. I mean, they've just agreed a deal for Matteo Ruggeri today as well, who can play right back, left back and centre back. So they've just got a versatile player in. If they're going to offer 45 to 50 million, well, we should tell them to fuck off, because they spent 70 million on Julian Alvarez last year, and Romero is not the same position, but he's on the same level, and he's Argentine as well. It's one of them where if we want to be a big club, we don't sell our best players unless we sell them for the fee we want. If we're not going to sell him for the fee we want, then don't sell him. Yeah. Simple as that.
My concern over him is it's a World Cup window, right? First of all, he's like the most Simeone player that I've ever seen, right? So that is like a match made in absolute heaven. But it's a World Cup year coming up, and we know what he was like before the last World Cup at Spurs. There was many an injury. He was miraculously okay again whenever he went on international duty. My worry is that we see a similar thing come out from him again. Do you think it's time for him to be given like full captaincy at Spurs instead of it being with Son Heung-min? Do you think he's the type of player that you need to say to him, right, we're going to build this team around you. We want you to be our number one captain?
I think there's some merit to that. I think that my problem with Romero, it's like with Richarlison. They both don't speak proper English, or we've never heard full interviews in English, to be honest. I think that depending on what country you go to, you should speak the native language to be able to communicate as well. And I've never heard Kuti speak English, so I would always say that's a sort of risk if you're going to give someone a captaincy who can't speak any English at all. I think there is definitely an option for him to be captain. I think that he would probably be a more arse-kicking captain than Sonny as well. But you have to do you say to Sonny, right, well, if you're staying at the club, we'll take the captaincy off of you. So then you screw over one player to then give it to Romero, who then could just, even if you tell him you're going to build it round him, he'll still go and decide which games he wants to play and what games he don't want to play. Your captain's dictating terms to you, and he'll still decide that, oh, I can't play 4 games before an international break, but I can still go and play against God knows what country in a World Cup qualifier or something like that for the Argentine national team. So I think there's such a good player in Romero, and I thought he was instrumental in that final and in the lead up to the sort of Europa League final itself. But he was shit in the Premier League for quite a few times and all that. He was very culpable of goals. And if you are going to sell him, then this summer's the prime example to do it. But we sell him on our terms, not someone else's. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think Spurs' concern is that, is that, if you leave it another year, I think it then goes, into 1 year left at that point? And then, he could just let that contract run down. And then Spurs, see him as an asset as well, which I do get. But again, I think you're right. I think, if we want to be a big club, we need to not only, make the signings we want to make, but also keep the players that we need to keep. Talking about players we don't want to keep, and that's Alejo Belice. Looks like he's going back to Argentina, and Racing, I think, is the club he's going to. So I don't know the ins and outs. You might have to kind of fill me in on this, but I think that one is just about crossing the T's and dotting the I's to get that deal done. But it looks like Spurs are going to make a pretty hefty loss on him.
Yeah, it's nothing's agreed at the moment. There are active talks. A lot of the stuff was from Argentine media. There are active talks with Racing Club and Rosario Central as well over it. Looks like probably a fee of around 3.6 to 5.5 million that's being discussed with a sell-on clause. It's one of them weird ones, the South American deals, like what we tried to do with Dybala, where you don't have the player, you have rights to the player or some shit like that. So we would be selling 60% of the rights and we would retain 40% of the rights or something like that, which I don't know how we've got wrapped up in this crap. Let's put it that way. It's one of them ones where it just makes it messy to whenever you get rid of a player.
£1 million in loan rights is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's what does that actively do for Spurs? It doesn't help them, and I just think that.
I think it's to try and hold on to an asset in some way, right? So if a miracle happens, he does end up being a top quality player. We don't lose out long term. But then, we were talking last season about Johnny Cardozo, I think his name is, and Betis, and then looks like Betis is selling him to somebody else. And I thought Spurs would do, a percentage of a sell-on fee, but there's not been any, talk about that since that's happened. So it seems another weird one.
Yeah, the Cardoso one was a weird one as well, that they apparently agreed the deal and apparently someone overlooked some fine print where it said that we wouldn't get a sell-on clause if the player actively rejects Spurs' advances or goes to another club. Sort of thing. Apparently that's so. I mean, I heard it from someone in Spain, so I don't know how much I believe on it, to be honest. It might be that literally that Spurs have got it and they've just kept quiet on it, because you don't really announce sell-on clauses when you don't actively had the player in the first place. To be honest, it's
that whole statement sounds like somebody's clickbaiting to try and wind our fan base up. That sounds like what that is. I don't know that for certain, but do you know what I mean? There must be people out there who know what Spurs fans are like, and and try and do that. But who knows really? Right, let's see what some of the comments are saying on this. So let's see. Right, Johnny said, let's see how long you guys stay as a big six club. I have goosebumps finding out. You can't possibly finish above Chelsea, Newcastle or Villa as long as you have Champions League. We'll see.
Does that mean we can finish above Arsenal, Johnny, then? Because you ain't named them.
No, that's a fair point. Look, I don't think we'll do a lot this season. I think that, having a new manager and Champions League football is going to be incredibly difficult. I think we have to start the season well. I think our start of the season is better than some other teams. The first kind of 6 to 7 games aren't too bad, as a run of games together. And I think we have to start well to be able to give ourselves a chance this season. Somebody who has gone out on loan to Doncaster is Ajayi. That one's done and confirmed. Down into League One. You thought he might have got, I thought he might have got something a little bit higher. But, he's quite highly rated at Spurs. But look, a loan move is a loan move, and he has to go and take his opportunity and try and cement himself a place long-term at Spurs.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a good move, I think, to be honest. Doncaster Rovers are apparently looking to become a sort of loan feeder club for Spurs in the future. Spurs are trying to build these networks up. So if we can do it with these lower clubs, whether it be League One, League Two, Champions or like Championship clubs, I'm all for it, to be honest. And I would say that Doncaster are one of the sort of top up-and-coming teams who are willing to give youth players a chance. So, no, good move for him. And I think there was even rumours that he's signed a new deal as well to go further in the club till about 2028, I believe.
Right, fair enough. Right, and let's talk finally about Spurs captain Heung-min Son. In his final year at Spurs, potential of, there are Saudi clubs sniffing around. I think we discussed this on the Keep Loan or Sell show last week. But again, these rumours kind of don't go away. I feel like there are teams out there looking to make, statement signings in Saudi to try and, cement this. And he could be a player they are looking at. Do you think Spurs will sell him with 1 year left, or just let him kind of run out his last season?
I think that Spurs will look to try and gain a fee, to be honest. Something tells me that Daniel Levy will never let a penny slip through the floor. The same with Ben Davies, to be fair, as well. But I think Sonny has at least earned the right to choose whether he wants to remain around the club or whether he wants to actively look to get a team to come in and bid for him as well. I don't know whether Sonny's all for the money as well, but there's sort of something in there. So no, I think that if Sonny does want to go, I'd probably let him go, to be honest. But it's who we replace him with. And I was having a discussion with someone the other day. If they actively say that Tell, Odebear and Moore are good enough to replace Sonny as our options off the left, then we're kidding ourselves and our season will be nothing, to be honest. The same with only having Johnson and Kulu on the right bit. Because if we are going to sell Sonny, even at half a player as Sonny, we need to have someone actively to replace him, because the other ones aren't ready. Them three are not ready to take over his mantle yet.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree with that. And look, as much as I slag off players for going to Saudi Arabia for a payday, I think at the point of Son Heung-min, if that's something he chooses to do, then I probably wouldn't look badly upon him for that. He stayed at Spurs long enough to win a trophy. He finally does that. And why not give him, one last payday? I mean, if you look at how much Ronaldo is now making, I mean, this guy, he's an absolute joke, isn't he, Ronaldo? Like, needs no more money than anybody, for the rest of his days. But yeah, he still keeps picking up astronomical sums of money in Saudi Arabia, and he sold his soul a long time ago, and that's his prerogative. But I wouldn't be against Sonny if he did do something like that. But I also wouldn't. I kind of agree with you in the sense that Daniel Levy doesn't like losing people on free transfers. And so, if we could get 15, 20 million, I'm not sure the figures floating around, but even if, those figures, I think we should let him go. But I think they're even, you can put 10%, 20%, or even more Saudi tax on that as well. So, if Saudi clubs come sniffing around, whatever your valuation is, add 10 or 15 million on top and you've got a deal.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, the leagues that I've heard about at the moment that are looking in are Saudi and Turkey. There was rumours of the MLS, but the MLS had a lot of pull about 2 years ago, and now it's sort of gone towards the retirement league again, which I think is quite unfortunate because even Olivier Giroud has now returned to bloody Europe this week as well. Went to Lille.
Did he? Wow.
Yeah, he's like 40 years of age now, and he's come back. I mean, I know we're talking ex-Arsenal, but he's returned to Europe, and I mean, I think you've got the choice. You go to sort of Saudi for the money, you go to Turkey to maybe remain in the threshold of Europe, or you've got your retirement home down the road in Los Angeles or something like that, haven't you? Sit in Beverly Hills and play a bit of football on once a week. And watch the Club World Cup.
Lionel Messi, Suarez, Son Heung-min. The problem with the MLS is you only get a certain amount of, like marquee signings, they call them. And so it can be difficult to sign, a number of quality players.
Yeah, I think they do like a draft, don't they, or something like that. You have to submit a deal sheet, and then you look at the rights of who has first refusal to them, sort of thing. It's
kind of a bit like I've been playing a bit of Football Manager, and I try and avoid the MLS as much as possible. But at some point, I will do it just to try and learn how it all works. But I think it takes a kind of nod from how like an NFL draft works, but not as much, in that sense. And so you can kind of trade deals in and out and whatnot. I think it's the way to keep the leagues competitive, as you can't get into them unless you buy into them. Via franchise and whatnot. But look, only time will tell with that. As I said, at the start of the show, there aren't a lot of things that we can talk about with Spurs at the moment because it is all paper talk, and there isn't really anybody out there that can tell us, that certain things are happening or not happening. So we will keep coming to you throughout the summer window, the pre-season, and keep discussing all these potential deals that come in. And look, if what Winnie's saying is correct, and we're waiting for the next window to come in, for PFA and whatnot, then Tuesday is the 1st of July. So hopefully we may see more of that from there. But that does kind of wrap us up for today's show. There's been quite a few of you in the chat, so really do appreciate every single one of you. Do not forget to like and do not forget to subscribe as well. Actually, while you're there, do it now. Click the buttons and make us all happier men. But Callum, thanks again, mate, for joining in. How can everybody find you?
Nice. Another good one, mate. It's my second transfer show of the week so far. I'm sure I'll probably be doing more next week if I get dragged on somewhere. But no, you can find me at Callum Stubbs 97 on X and just doing rounds on Twitter at the moment. To be honest, having a couple of battles with people, so it's all good fun.
Nice, yeah, definitely go drop Callum a follow for sure. And yeah, thanks for Winnie for dropping in as well. It was really good to see him. Hopefully, we'll see more of him throughout this season. And if you want to follow me, you can go Luke_Park_Lane on Twitter. I will always and forever refuse to call it X because it's stupid. And yeah, that kind of wraps us up for tonight's show. You can follow us on all forms of social media at Park Lane Podcast or at Park Lane Pod. Just search it and you'll find us. Head over to TikTok as well because we're really trying to get to 1,000 TikTok followers before the start of the new season. 820 something at the moment. So in the last week, another few. We need a big push though. So go over there and do give us a follow. But if you do, at any point want to get in touch or are interested in even joining the show for the next season, then drop myself or Callum or anybody else a DM on Twitter, and we'll go from there. But until next time, a massive come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you